Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for the Deputy Podcast, the official podcast of the Oconee County Sheriff's Office SC. You can find us on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Buzzsprout, and more. There's also going to be a video version of this available on our YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I am not Jimmy Watt. I am Adam Logan. I'm a sergeant in the Office of Professional Standards. I'm filling in for him today because this is an episode that we've decided to dedicate to veterans, of which I am one. And my guest today is First Sergeant Tyler Illian. Tyler Illian is also a veteran. He and I banter back and forth sometimes at work. He's a Marine, and I am from the Army. Tyler, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so appreciate y'all having me. Again, he introduced me, First Sergeant Tyler Illian. Been at the Sheriff's Office now for about 4 years. I'm from Pensacola, Florida originally, so I have no ties to Oconee County before coming here. So a little different from most. So born in Pensacola, born and raised by my father and my stepmother. From there, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18. Left for Parris Island, spent some time up at Camp Lejeune, then back down to Parris Island. Met my wife while I was in the Marine Corps. Once I got out, we moved to Liberty, South Carolina, and first started doing a little contracting work overseas and kind of in and odd jobs and whatnot. And then went to Clemson University Police Department. That's where we had my son. We have one child. He's 5, Rawlings. And then I came over to the Sheriff's Office here in Oconee. So
it's funny you bring up Rawlings, and I want to share this with everyone because Tyler and I are sociable with each other at work a lot. And sometimes he brings Rawlings up here to the office. And I have a little tradition with Rawlings. When he comes up, I like to give him gifts. These gifts are usually completely age inappropriate and have no real value. I give him bottles of hand sanitizer. Last time I tried to give him a VCR, I think it was.
Yep. And whistles and
whistles.
Yeah.
Noise making things are awesome.
Yeah. Lots of pieces. Yeah.
So what brought you guys to Liberty?
So my wife is from the Greenville area. Liberty was kind of small town feel. Nothing that really said we had to go to Liberty other than just the house we found at the time. That kind of fit our needs.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about going all over the world. Like you deployed. I know you deployed.
Sure.
I deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up, from Florida, and you end up living in
small town
South Carolina. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. It's definitely slowed me down a little bit for sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about, I guess, and it's kind of a neat segue, is because you're a veteran, I'm a veteran, we're both in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. That is a surprisingly common theme we find.
Sure.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we get out of the military and we find our way into law enforcement?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the big thing for me is when I was getting out of the military, I was an infantry guy. And I think the misconception that a lot of people have is, the military can only translate to law enforcement, right? So a lot of people get into this line of work solely off the fact that they don't think they can do anything else. But as I've learned now being in law enforcement, as I have, is you're a jack of all trades. Kind of like when you were in the military, even though your job might be infantry, you're good at doing 100 other things, right?
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing in law enforcement. You're not just good at shooting a gun, which in my head, that's all I was,
this was going to be.
I'm going to shoot my gun all the time, right? I've been in this line of work for 6 years and have never done it,
Yeah.
right? Other than training. So it's, really for me, it was kind of selling myself short, but now that I'm here, kind of realizing that I've gone above and beyond. So.
You bring up a very interesting point because I agree with you. That is a common theme with people.
Sure.
When you're in the military, you get out. Infantryman, I was a medic attached to an infantry unit in the Army. And when I got out, sure, I could have gone the medical route. I was kind of done with that part of my life, to be honest with you. We had a rough last deployment, and I just wanted to get out of that side of it.
Sure.
So I came here, and like you, I guess I had that mentality of, and I don't really have any skills aside from this medical stuff. Sure. What am I going to do? I guess they taught me to shoot. I'll go do that.
Right.
And then you get into it, and you realize that is less than a 0.0001% of what we do. But what we do develop in the military, I think that also benefits us, is when you go into that military environment, you're around a bunch of people from all over the world with different backgrounds.
Sure.
And you have to work together, and you learn to communicate with
Right.
them.
Just learning to talk to people is huge, right? And, a lot of this job is, problem solving. And, just being able to read somebody or just listen, right? And understand that, people call 911 on their worst days, right? Yeah. Not a lot of people call 911 just to talk. There's few, but not a lot, right?
There's always one or two.
Yeah, always. In anything you do, right? So with that being said, it's, kind of taking what I learned in the military and translating that back to law enforcement, right? So
did you find that challenging at all?
For me, not so much, right? I think that it kind of came natural just from I spent 9 years in the military, and I felt that for me anyway, it was kind of natural to be able. I've always been able to talk to people and kind of, banter back and forth and have a good conversation, right? But at times it does get challenging, right? And there's people that they call you and they don't want to talk. They want you to fix their problems, right? I'm a talker. I want to try to fix it by words first, but there's days that are challenging, right? I think the thing that really translated for me too was being a leader in the Marine Corps, and then now being a leader, with guys that, this might be their first job, right? And you're not only teaching them how to be a cop, but also, how to be an adult at the same time.
Well, and I really do think too. You and I both came to the sheriff's office in what I would call a transitional time. We had a lot of people who were aging out and retiring, and you were thrust in a position of leadership quickly, based on your personality and the skills that you developed in the military. You've thrived in it, dude. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Not just kissing your tail. You really are doing a good job.
Just kiss my tail.
And I think those skills that you developed leading men in the military greatly translated to the law enforcement. And it gives you that opportunity to help grow those guys up and help them become, more of the future, because they are the future of this agency. So in talking about that, we also, you and I are not alone in veterans at the sheriff's office.
Right.
If you had to guess, how many veterans do you think work here? I'm going to spoil this for you because I kind of counted before you got here. I cheated.
Okay.
But
we have 150 or so sworn, so I'd say probably 40.
So that's embarrassing how close you are. We've got about 125 sworn. And then we also counted in the detention center when we're doing these statistics. It's 16% of the people who work here at the sheriff's office are a veteran in some form or capacity.
Okay.
So I was trying to figure this out with our technology guru, Alan, before we got here, and I was trying to figure out why that was. And here's where I landed. You give me your feedback on it. I want to know what you think about it. Oconee County is a great place. I love it here. I grew up here, though.
Yep.
And this is home to me. And it's a rural area, so there's like limited things that you can really get into.
Sure.
And I think that may generate some of the statistics as to why we have so many veterans working here, right?
Absolutely.
So they leave and they come home. But then you meet guys like you, and there are a ton of them. I could list them off if we really wanted to, that are not from here, that are veterans that work here. Why do you think it is that they ended up coming here to Oconee County?
So, just speaking from my experience, when I first moved here, I didn't know anything about any agencies. I actually went to Clemson University because my first squad leader in the Marine Corps works at Clemson University. So he said, hey, come on, we'll see if you like it, if you don't. Because when I got out of the military, I was adamant about I didn't want to carry a gun. Didn't want to do it. Not on my off time. I don't want to have to keep up with it, right? But there comes a time where you realize if you're good at something, you need to, well, why not, right? Yeah, I'm going to use that skill. So from my experience, when we moved here, Corporal Tebow, he's on my shift, another supervisor, he called me, just that networking that we have he's from Baltimore, Maryland. And he called me and he said, hey man, he said, what are you doing with your life right now? I said, I'm down here in Oconee County at the sheriff's office. He said, how do you like it? I said, I love it. We have our good and bad and different, just like anywhere else. But I said, I really enjoy it. Right. And, so that's the cool thing about the military is I'm not just going to BS you. Right. I'm going to tell you, how it is. And
truth.
And I'm also, before he made a decision to come down here, I told him, I said, you need to try all the agencies around. Anyone you're interested in, you need to look into them. Highway Patrol, wherever you want to go. Right.
Sounded nice.
If you want to come to Oconee County, you're a great guy. I'll put my name on you. But don't make a decision based off me. You need to make a decision based off you and your family, because at any point in time, today might be my last day here. I don't know, right? You just don't, right?
Never know.
And so, I preach that to him, right? And so I think guys come here because of that bond, right? They know that at the end of the day, like, law enforcement is a lot like the military, right? It's the paramilitary.
It is,
and it's you're going to work around good people.
It's the closest you can get to that sense of brotherhood in the civilian world, in my opinion.
It is. And you're going to be around good people at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Right?
Every time you're around good people. It's funny you bring that up about telling Tebow to check out all the agencies around here. My cousin actually works here, and he works for you, actually. I told him the same thing. I was like, he's from here, so obviously he was drawn to this area. But I said, hey, man, and the sheriff and Captain Crompton may get mad at me for this, but I was like, hey, look at every other agency in the area. Look at where you want to go. Just check it out. And he ended up here, and as far as I know, he loves it. I'm not going to tell you what he says about you. But
I appreciate it. I'll talk to him after this.
Keep it light. You know how stressed out he gets. So another parallel that I find super interesting in law enforcement and the military is, so you enlisted in the Marine Corps and met your wife and stuff. When I went into the Army, I already had a family. I had a wife and 2 boys, or one, and then I found out that I was having a second one at basic training, but that's a story for another day. So really what I'm saying, what I'm bringing that up to bring up is, you're not just a cop. Your wife is also kind of like a cop's wife. So that's it's kind of similar to the military.
Sure. Very similar, very different as well, right? I think the people ask me, I've had these conversations with people that haven't been in the military, and they've asked me to compare, and there's really no good comparison. And I would sit here and tell anybody that the military was a lot easier, right, when it came to a family.
I totally agree.
And people were like, why? You're gone all the time? That's crazy. How could you ever think that the military would be easier, with a family? I'll tell you this, that, me and my wife, I love her to death. She's put up with a lot, and I don't know how, right? I really don't. And I will say that when I was in the military, and you can attest to this, when you're gone, you're gone, buddy. And you're not worried about anything back here on the home front.
There's no soccer games.
There's no church
recitals.
You get done with a patrol, and some bad stuff happens. You're with your boys, and
you go to the gym.
You go to the gym. You go eat. You go to the gym again. It's just the way of life, right?
Yeah.
And you know that you're making a phone call home or getting a letter from home, and once that letter folds or once that phone hangs up,
you're done.
Once it drops call, you're done, right? And it's back to what you were doing. But here, I've learned real quick that you might go to a real call, right? Something that's, hits home pretty hard, whether it be, a child death or a shooting or, even someone's personal problems that may not seem like a big deal, but then to take their personal problems and to make a drive home and now have to deal with your own personal problems, right? Or, you're still in uniform. So the big thing I always did in the military, especially when I worked at Parris Island, was I lived so far from the base to where I could change my uniform. I would go to the gym. I'd have the time to drive home. I could have an hour or 2 to decompress. There's none of that here, right? There's no opportunity for that. You leave here and, just giving you an example, I work nights. I get off at 7. When I get home, my kid's already up. He's dressed for school, and I want daddy to take me, right? He doesn't know what happened the night before, nor does he need to know. But that's my job to flip the switch to say, hey, look, now I gotta deal with real world stuff, right? And I love the sheriff's office to death, but we all work to take care of our family, right?
Absolutely.
So I gotta, just as good as I am here, so nothing happens to me or my guys, I gotta be 100 times better there, right? So it's a lot to, it's a lot to take in. So when it comes to the families, especially our wives and even husbands, like, you commend them. You know what I mean? Because they don't know what's happening from 7P to 7A.
And honestly, sometimes we don't go home and talk to them about it either.
We're terrible about it, dude.
We bottle that up and we don't talk about it and we move on.
Yep.
And that's something I think that we both picked up from the military as well, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Because of that, what you were talking about.
Right.
We're gone, we're deployed, or we're wherever. Bad stuff happens. You come back and you just, hey, bud, move on. You're riding around listening to Carly Rae Jepsen cutting up,
Yeah, oh yeah.
But the parallel between the military and law enforcement in that regard, I love where you show where it diverges there. Mm-hmm. It completely diverts there completely. Because you're right. Over there, you were somewhere else.
Sure.
Here, this stuff happens here, and you don't have time to decompress.
And I think what I've learned too, and this took me a little bit of time to mature in this job as well, was you go on patrol overseas and people are trying to kill you. That's their job, right? They are legit trying to kill you every day.
When you walk in, everyone here hates me.
Right. And you're good with it because
I got my boys with me.
Yeah,
I'm good.
We're fine, right? But here, some of the stuff that happens, it happens, but it's not supposed to, right?
Yeah.
This is what you cliche fought to protect.
Yeah.
And now it's happening almost sometimes worse than what it was happening overseas, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's hard.
It is. It's weird, right?
It's an emotional weight that you carry.
Right.
It's crazy because you're 1,000% right. There you expect it. Here you don't expect it.
Right.
And when you're confronted with reality, sometimes, man, it punches you right in the stomach.
Especially from seeing it from the military side, because you were like, everything, and you can attest to this, everything that you did over there, we're fighting for freedom. You know what I mean? It's because America, right? Like it was all this, hoorah stuff. But at the same time, then you get back and you see it, and it's like, but what was all that for? You know what I mean? Like if it's still happening,
that's a crazy struggle that no one ever really talks about. And It's crazy that we brought that up. I would have never even thought about that until this conversation.
It's super weird to think about when you think about it like that.
It's powerful is what it is, man. Yeah. And that kind of plays into what I want to talk about next, right? These weights and this burden that you carry both from the military. You hear terms like PTSD and stress and stuff like that from the military all the time. People commonly think of that associated with that. Sometimes with law enforcement, I mean, they do with law enforcement as well. Which do you, I hate to make it a comparison. I'm not really wanting to make it a comparison. Do you find it more difficult to deal with it here in law enforcement than you did in the military?
I think there's kind of two ways to skin it, right? I think that when it came to the military has done better now. But, I mean, when we were in, it was one of those things where you didn't talk about it. You didn't go get help. If you went and got help, you were crazy. You were weak. You were, you couldn't handle it, right?
It's a machismo mentality.
And the rotations were so quick that if you were to say something, you weren't going to make the next rotation with your boys. Yeah. So it was just better to be quiet, shut up, enjoy your time home, and deal with it after, right? And so I felt that when I was in the military, like bottling it up was super easy, right? And if you asked, my wife, she would have told you, my husband thinks nothing's wrong with him. And she tried to tell me for years that I needed to go talk to somebody, right? Sure. And I was like, they don't know me like I know me. Like that was my mentality, right?
Yeah.
Right? No one knows me like I know me, right? But I feel like here, as I've matured, at first I was kind of the same way, right? I got over here and I was like, I've done this. I can definitely handle this, right?
This is war zone, and this is Oconee County. Yeah,
I'm fine, right? But I think once you have those critical incidents, that things start to really like click. And it's not even so much, I guess more cliche, the triggers, right?
Yeah.
People have them to where it's like, again, this isn't supposed to happen here. Why is this happening here? Why is this happening? My family's 3 miles up the road. You know what I mean? Like that's when it hits home, right?
Yeah.
To where I've really learned as I've matured here that, especially with, our shift lately, has had a number of critical incidents to where it's not just me having to deal with my feelings. I'm having to deal with everyone's feelings, right?
Yeah.
And so I've learned that, you talking to these guys and, talking to, you and, Captain Crompton and guys part of the peer support team, it's okay not to be okay, right?
Yeah,
it really is.
It's a normal reaction to an abnormal event.
And it's made me a better husband and it's made me a better father in the sense of a father. Like I tell Rollins all the time, I said, dude, it's okay to cry. You don't want to go to school? I don't blame you, buddy. You know what I mean? Not everyone, but there's going to be times in life that we have to do stuff we don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
But if you're upset about it, it's okay to be upset, right? You have to let him have emotion just like I'm allowed to have emotion, right? Just because he's 5 doesn't mean he can't have emotion.
It's crazy too. Fatherhood plays a role in that perspective too. You start really appreciating, like, I look at the young me who was in the military versus the 40-year-old me now and how I handle things and how my children, I've watched them grow, and it has affected how I deal with things too.
The problem is most of my shifts 21 and 22, and so they're still in that invincible phase where, nothing can hurt them.
Yeah.
And so anytime something comes over the radio, I'm like, oh my goodness.
They bottle it. They're not ready to deal with the reality
they're not.
of it sometimes. And what I love about that though is that you're a positive role model to them in that you're willing to confront rough things emotionally yourself. I'm willing to do it too. And I think that it's incumbent upon people like us and other veterans here at the sheriff's office that are, have been around a little while. We have to set that normality of it's okay to talk about it. And if it's really bothering you, let's get somebody who can help you. Right. Sure. And that kind of feeds into what I wanted to get to. Have you ever heard of the Upstate Warriors?
I have. Solution? And, I'd say probably about 2 years ago, you probably remember just as well as anybody. I had an issue with, myself. I woke up one day and I remember calling you and I said, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm financially in a very good spot, right? And I'm very fortunate with the VA and they've helped me. I do well here. So financially, I'm fine. My marriage is fine. My relationship with my son's fine. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I need help, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up contacting you, and you and Captain Crumpton came to my house. For anyone that doesn't know that, and I mean, I'll put that out there because, I mean,
I appreciate you sharing that.
And people think that just because you're a Marine or you're in law enforcement or you wear this uniform, you have all the answers, right? I tell my go-to line usually when I show up to someone's house and them and their spouse or whatever they're arguing, I tell them, just because I'm wearing this uniform doesn't mean I have all the answers for it, right? Because I probably left my house and my wife's probably mad at me about something, right? So it doesn't mean I have all the answers for it, but I'll try to help you any way I can.
Right, absolutely.
Right. So, but going back to the Warrior Solutions, they helped me a lot. The VA's helped me a lot. There's different resources out there that have really kind of put their thumb on me and said, hey, look, like, don't give up now. You can do this, right? Because we've all had friends that they gave up, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a route you want to go, but I appreciate you for being there that day.
Well, dude, I appreciate you for sharing that here. And as someone who suffered from a similar thing, I had a little crisis myself. We ended up, seeking some help myself. It's a real problem. I think the statistic is 22 a day, and of veterans take their life. And 22 is a lot. 1 is a lot to me.
Sure.
I think that it's important that these guys out in the world know that we're here for them.
Absolutely.
And if you call the sheriff's office for help, I told you earlier there's about 16% of us that are veterans. Odds are there's going to be a veteran on that shift that can come talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
A brother or sister who served in, we've got everything from the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the National Guard, Coast Guard. We even got one guy who went to the Citadel. You know you are. They're willing to come help, right?
Absolutely.
I tell you, Tyler, we were talking earlier about the resources, and you were brave enough to share your stuff, so I'm going to share a little bit of mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the company that I used because it was prior to being here and working here. I had a crisis of a situation, and they hooked me up with a counselor, and I did some stuff with them, and it really did help me build effective tools in dealing with my diagnosed PTSD.
Sure.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about what Upstate Warrior Solutions hooked you up with?
Yeah, so I spoke with them briefly, but some of the things they offered some like small group interaction kind of stuff, also one-on-one counseling. And I'll be the first to tell you, I've done counselings in other places, just not with Upstate Warrior Solutions. But with those counselings, a lot of times I was kind of pushed back from it because I was like, they weren't there. They don't know kind of what happened, right? But at the end of the day, they're professional, right? They may not have been there, but they've read a lot of books and done a lot of studying to know, how the human mind reacts to certain stuff, right? I've done, overexposure therapy, right, to where you record yourself through a traumatic event, and then not knowing I was going to play it back and have to listen to myself tell it for the next 12 weeks. But that's a whole other story. But what I'm getting at is certain things work for certain people, right?
Absolutely.
And so, just because you try something and it doesn't work doesn't mean that you need to stop, because the next thing might work for you that may not work for me, right? So there's 100 resources out there, thousands of them. It's just finding what's going to work for you, and not giving up and getting in tune with the right people and getting connected.
Absolutely. It's making that first step of admitting you've got an issue is the key to it, and then we can point you in the right direction. And the same thing applies for law enforcement stuff too. We do great work with SC Leaps, and they do those PCIS things. We've had a bunch of folks go to those things. You mentioned overexposure therapy. I've heard of, I think it's EMR, the I one. It's really great. A lot of people rave about it.
I probably don't need to do that one then.
Because of the
because I got lazy.
There's a lot of things out there for people, right? That can help them and get them going the right track and processing this stuff. Tyler, I want to take a second. I want to thank you for.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
You were super open, dude, and for a Marine. I'm just joking. I really do appreciate your vulnerability and your
Absolutely.
willingness to step up and share this stuff with people.
Yeah, I mean,
You've always been a selfless person, and you put other people first. And I think that's why you found your way into law enforcement. I think you're phenomenal at it. Well, that wraps it up for this edition of the Deputy Podcast. For all those things that we talked about, like the Veterans Crisis Line, Upstate Warrior Solutions, the VA, those links can be found in the description of this podcast. On a personal note, I'm going to take a second, and it always feels weird doing it when you're me, when you're a veteran, but I feel comfortable saying that the sheriff and the entire office would want me to take a second and wish all of you out there a happy Veterans Day. It does always feel weird when you're
definitely weird.
Yeah. But in keeping with that tone, I want to go ahead and tell you happy birthday to the Marine Corps on the 10th. Absolutely, man.
That's 250 years.
250 years. Yeah, it hurts coming out of my mouth, but I'm happy for you guys, man. That's awesome. I'm Sergeant Adam Logan, filling in for old Jimmy Watt and Alan Sayer. This has been the Deputy Podcast. Y'all have a good one. Happy Veterans Day.